so we're recording, and we've got some people on here. And I got some notes down here that I'll go through so I don't lose track too badly. So this is a second webinar of the series. We're going to cover fees, discounts, and bribes. And we've got Olivia here in chat support. You should see her down there. So as we go along, if you have questions, feel free to throw them in there. She can answer them as we go. And I'm going to jump right into a couple of things here. So the first thing is I took an ad that was originally, I think it was $129, and I just kind of doctored it up a little bit. But as consumers, if we see an ad like this, and you compare $99 to $129, if everything else is the same, we have kind of this perception that the one that's at $129 is better quality. That doesn't mean we're always going to go for that job. We may take the 99 because we want a discount. But in the back of our minds, that 129 is perceived as being higher quality. And then you've got some things like this, which is a little bit different perception of the industry. I'm sure you've all seen something like this. You know, the guys who charge $5 a room, $10 a room, do the high pressure upsells, almost no skill involved. You get a job where it's supposed to be $20, you think, and it ends up being $300, $400. So that leaves a pretty bad taste in your mouth. And unfortunately, that's a thing this industry has to deal with. You've got those guys out there in just about every service area. There's somebody doing this kind of a deal, and it's leaving a little bit of a black eye in the carpet cleaning industry. Kind of gives this impression that, you know, you're going to get nickel and dimed, you're going to get, you know, upsold all kinds of stuff that you don't necessarily need. Not to say that upselling is bad, but, you know, this is basically false advertising. So we've got a couple of perceptions to deal with ahead of time that sort of form what we do with this. So I'm going to start out with just a basic order that we threw together here in ServiceMonster. And we're going to talk about credit card fees. So this is a job, you know, we're charging, what, 45 cents a square foot for, you know, professional steam cleaning. And then because we've got a credit card fee, we're adding that in as a fee on the order. Now, I thought about this. This actually came up with just talking to people around here, people that work here or worked here, some people in the building, just people in general, sitting around at a trade show talking about fees and how people perceive them. We've got a Shell station, a gas station. It's maybe, I don't know, 30 seconds from here. I walk right over there at lunch sometimes to get a couple of things. And if you pay by credit card there, they charge you a 50-cent fee. And I actually know people, they will take their lunch break and they will drive across town to go to a grocery store, stand in line, actually end up probably spending more money just to avoid paying that credit card fee. And it's a real thing. I mean, it's not everybody. It's probably about a third of the people I talk to that have sort of this, you know, just bad feeling about credit card fees. So I started thinking about this, you know, what happens? I know a lot of you guys charge credit card fees on the order. It's something that does add up to quite a bit. What do we do to kind of combat that? You know, thinking about sort of that seedy underbelly of the industry where they charge, you know, the $8 a room and it ends up being the $400. How do we handle fees so people don't feel like they're getting nickel and dimed? Now, me personally, I don't care. I don't care about the fee. I go over there. It's convenient. I know the guy at the Shell station. You know, he likes the Mariners. He likes the Seahawks. When it's a sunny day, he rides his motorcycle to work. You know, good guy. And I talk to him every time I go over there. So something like that, we've already built a little bit of a rapport outside the traditional business transaction kind of thing. So that's a little bit easier for me to say, hey, I'm going to pay 50 cents to you for this transaction because I like you. I know you. I know you're an honest guy. We do business all the time. But part of it is I'm just not worried about paying fees. I realize you have fees. So I can either, on my way to work, I can grab some cash from the ATM or I pay the fee. Not a big deal. Carpet customers are largely used to paying by cash or check, but that is changing. Now, some of you guys, I know you use a fee as a deterrent. I've actually had a customer who said, look, if they're too lazy to go to the bank, I'm going to charge them the fee. which makes sense. I mean, I understand it, right? It's an inconvenience for you as the carpet cleaner, but it's also an inconvenience for that customer to go to the bank and get cash. And a couple of things happen there. So if I go to the ATM and I withdraw $250 and the job is $250, immediately you can't upsell anything. And when I say upsell, I don't mean nickel and dime me over high pressure things that I don't want. I'm talking about valuable things. If you want to offer me Scotch Guard, if you want to offer deodorizer or protectant or anything, you can't upsell now because I only have $250. You can't clean my sofa, you can't do anything else because you're relying solely on cash. Or you can say, well, we can do your sofa, but then I got to charge you a credit card fee. So that doesn't work out very well. Um, and you're right. You know, if I want to avoid that fee, I can go to the bank. I'll take that a step further. While I'm going to the bank, I can keep driving to the grocery store and I can rent a rug doctor and do it myself. Because what do I know? I don't know the difference between a Rotovac and a rug doctor. I mean, actually, I do. I'm ICRA certified and I went through carpet cleaning class. But your average consumer does not, right? Your average consumer, this is a convenience, and you have to treat it like that. So making them go to the bank is not convenient. Now, the first time you do a job for a customer, it's more about convenience than anything else. They don't know about your training, your education, your certification. They don't know what kind of equipment you have. They don't know the skill involved, the time involved, all that. Once you do a job, we're going to show you some ways to kind of educate your customer as you go, to show them why it's beneficial to have you do it instead of going to the grocery store and doing a rug doctor. So I'm going to get away from this order for just a minute here, and I'm actually going to go into marketing. And I do a lot of stuff with marketing things. You know, we include emailing, right? It's free. You can get a lot of bang for your buck. A lot of people don't use it, but there's a lot of things you can do in here. Even for customers who call for price shopping, they just want to get a quote. Maybe they don't do anything right away. You can send them out some kind of a follow-up letter. Or even as a job confirmation, you can send something out. And here's what I'm going to have you do. You guys pay a lot of money, very good money, for the equipment that you run. Leverage that. As a consumer, until you tell me, I don't know the difference. That's not my job. But something like this, if you send this to your customer before a job and you say, hey, thanks for requesting a quote. Our ICRA certified technicians use the Boxer 421 truck mounted cleaning system. Why the Boxer? Unlike portable machines that only generate 50 psi of pressure with faucet temperature water, the Boxer provides up to 1,000 psi at 215 degrees for a true steam cleaning that eliminates deep hard set soil. One paragraph and a picture of a truck mount. That's all you need. That right there, I look at that and I look at the rug doctor at the grocery store. I'm like, okay, now I get it. So part of it is as you go along, you educate the customer. And if you're able to, while you're in the field, show them a little bit about the equipment, show them what it does, show them, what the extraction looks like, what the difference is. Now, we focus a lot on getting you repeat business and referrals. And a big part of that is marketing. So using things like this kind of enhance the customer experience. And you don't have to have software to do this. You don't have to have a package to do this. Write your own email, talk to customers in the field. Just make sure you leverage the things that really are important. So you want your customer to have the best experience, maximum convenience, and no negatives to give them a bad taste. And when I talk about your customer, I don't just mean the person you talk to on the phone or in the house. I'm talking about the husband or wife who comes home and looks at that bill later and says, hey, I thought this was $250. Why is it $299? So if they ask about credit card payments, my personal opinion, you should be prepared to run a credit card payment for them without a penalty or a fee. That does not mean I want you to eat the cost, because it's a sizable business expense and it does add up. So most likely you're going to pay probably between 2 and 3%. And I'm going to say this and people will disagree, but it doesn't matter what the percentage is. If it's 2.47 versus 2.49 versus 3%, If you do it right, it doesn't matter. You usually sacrifice something to get the lower rates. You'll add transaction fees, you'll get locked into a contract, maybe you pay a monthly rate on top of the transaction fees. You may get penalized for taking certain cards. Maybe it's more for debit or credit cards, or whether you swipe or punch it in. There's all these restrictions on it, and honestly, it's a huge headache. It's a huge mess. If you're good at that kind of thing, more power to you. Me personally, outside this webinar, I'm never going to think about it again. So you have two approaches. One is to charge each individual who pays by credit card whatever that credit card transaction fee would be. You add your $5 or $6 onto the order, and that way it feels like a penalty. It feels like, look, I'm getting charged to pay you. Or you find a way to calculate how much that anticipated cost is as a business expense, and you spread it out evenly over all your customers. So let's do a little math here. I think I've got a whiteboard function on here that I can call on. My drawing skills may not be that great. Are you guys able to see this whiteboard? Okay, perfect. All right, so let's say right now, I mean, most people pay by cash or check. So let's say about 1 in 20 people probably pay by credit card for the average business out there. Look at my amazing drawing skills here, 1 in 20. So let's say you do 2 jobs a day times 5 days a week times 52 weeks a year. So in a year, you're going to do about 520 jobs. So you take that 520 and you multiply that by the 5% of customers who pay by credit card. And that comes out to 26 jobs a year who are paying by credit card. So you take your average job, right? Let's say your average job is $249. So what you want to do, multiply that by your 3%. That's your credit card transaction fee. That's assuming you got like the worst possible deal, you're paying the full 3%. So that comes out to about $750 per job. Times 26 jobs who paid by credit card. That's a total of $195 in credit card fees. That's, if you're charging $249 per job on average, that's almost a whole job just in credit card fees. And that's why it's important to make sure you find some way to get paid for it. Now, if you charge, let's see, if you charge a fee to each customer who pays by credit card, you're adding $750 to their individual order. Now, I've got people who drive across town on their lunch break and refuse to go to the gas station to save 50 cents. So what do you think they're going to do when they see $750? Not the best customer experience, and it definitely doesn't set the stage for repeat business down the line. And like I said, it's not everybody. In my experience, it's probably about a third of the people who have an aversion to credit card fees. So don't drive that third of your customers away. Now, if you want to equally distribute that $195 over all your customers as a business expense, like chemicals, like wands, like truck mounts, whatever you have, it's a business expense. And when it's all said and done, you try to calculate your profit after expenses. So this is an expense just like anything else. So you're not singling out a customer. You're just saying, look, this is what I paid for the year in credit card fees. Here's what I need to recover. So you take that $195, and we said we were doing, what, 520 jobs. And that comes out to 37.5 cents per job. That's not bad. Now take it a step further. Let's say that you stop penalizing your customers for paying by credit card. You could probably get 3 times the amount of customers who pay and feel like they had a convenience by paying by credit card. And all it would really take is about $1 per order more to cover your cost. So another thing I'll tell you about, we saw the $99 and $129. When you look at $99, does anybody actually think, oh, this is a great deal, it's under $100? No, you think $100, right? So when you see the nines, they mean zeros. 129 means 130. So you're not fooling anybody by saying, oh, this is only $9. So if you need an extra $1 per job to pay for credit card fees, instead of 249, charge 250. You know what else is 250? 251, 252, 253. It's all perception and it's all the same thing. I'm paying 250 to get my carpets cleaned. And I don't feel like I'm getting nickel and dimed with extra charges, extra fees. I don't have to explain this to my wife when I go home, like, well, you know, it was 249, but no, it's just one big fee. So let's go back here to our order with Dustin Pedroia. And Dustin's doing his carpets because he's a Boston Red Sox. I love the Red Sox, but they were 0-3 and 3 and out in the postseason. So now Dustin's at home, a lot of time by himself, and he says, well, let's clean the carpet. Now, this particular company, we're charging per square foot, and we're charging 45 cents a square foot. On this one, we had a $5.50 credit card fee. So your order total down here comes out to $254.80 plus tax. And that's a funny thing. We're okay paying taxes. We all get taxes. But as soon as you start talking about credit card fees, fuel cost, little things like that, everybody gets mad. So let's get rid of this credit card fee. And let's say instead of 45 cents a square foot, let's charge 46 cents a square foot. Big difference, right? It's the same price as when we had the fuel charge or the credit card charge in there. Comes out exactly the same order. I mean, it's off by maybe 3 cents. So something like that, the perception is, look, it's 46 cents a square foot versus 45 cents a square foot. The round numbers probably don't mean that much to people. 46 cents a square foot is just fine. And you don't have to add any extra charges in here. Now I'm going to talk about the other one. I mentioned fuel charges. And long distance jobs especially is where I see people charging fuel charges. Oh, still on the whiteboard. Let me get out of here. If I can figure out how. Let's see. All right, this is going to get tricky. I know there's a way to do this. Probably something easy where I can just close this thing down. All right, there we go. All right, we should be back on here. So we're back on this order, and do you see this order screen now? All right, perfect. So on the order screen, we basically changed this order from the 45 cents a square foot, where it came out to, you know, $249.30, and we had that credit card charge on there. I think we had $5.50 on that one for credit card charge. So the price it came out to before with the credit card charge was $254.80. When we get rid of the credit card charge and we just raise our prices by 1 cent per square foot, it comes out to $254.84. So it's off by 4 cents, but still looks a lot better, at least to me. So now fuel charges. A lot of you have a pretty big service area. And it's a lot of them are where you have a bunch of smaller cities that are sort of connected. A lot of them you have one main city and there's an outlying area that's, you know, 45, 50, 60 minutes away that you have to drive to. And the first thing I've seen people do to combat that is impose a fuel charge. And this one's a little different. You can't really split a fuel charge among your customers unless you wait till the end of the year and say, how much did I do the previous year for fuel charges? And it's still hard to calculate that. Most of the time in your service area, you assume the fuel charge is part of your job that you're charging anyway, right? So I'm going to talk a little bit about how to combat those jobs that are a little bit farther out of your service area, and some ways to maximize those jobs where you're not spending as much, but you still don't have to charge a fuel charge. First thing, put your address on your website. Now, I go to websites constantly looking at what people are doing, and the first thing I notice is when you don't have your address on there. Now, with most businesses, if I'm looking for my own use, if the address is not on there, it looks a little shady to me. My first thought is, how do I contact these guys if there's something wrong? Sure, we've got an email address, sure, we've got a phone number, but I don't really know where they're located. Even if you're working out of your apartment, put your apartment address, put a P.O. box, put something so that somebody knows, one, where you're located, and if they're somewhat familiar with the area, they know, oh, well, this guy's 2 hours away, I'm not going to call him. The second thing is establish a firm or a semi-firm service area ahead of time. And that's important when somebody calls and maybe they're not sure if you service their area or not. Again, on your website, if you actually put the cities or counties that you serve, that'll save a lot of those kind of awkward calls where they're 2 hours away. But if they do call, you automatically know, oh, you're located here. Yeah, that's outside my service area. The other thing is network. Network with people in those areas that are maybe not inside your service area, but they're close by. You know, network with reputable cleaners who do good work, and you guys can send each other work back and forth because they have the same issue you do. When somebody in your area calls them, they can say, hey, you know what, call Bob over here, he'll help you out. Establish a minimum charge for a job. And I've seen a lot of people do that anyway, right? I mean, you don't want to go unload a truck and haul hoses all over the place for $49. A lot of people have some type of a minimum, especially for an outside the service area, they'll have a minimum charge. Now, what's nice about that, if there's a job outside the service area and you say, well, look, I have a minimum charge of $129. What are we looking to do? And if they've got 3-4 rooms, whatever would come out to 129, then you say, sure, I'm still willing to do that. It's a good paying job. I'll go do that. The important distinction, though, is you're charging them the same that you would charge the guy right next door for the same service, right? So they're getting a tangible benefit. They're not paying an extra charge for something they don't actually benefit from directly. Now, when a prospect calls to ask you to do a job outside the service area, start with no. Say, you know, no, it's a little bit outside my range. What are you looking to have done? And then if it's not a job you want to do, you've got the networking going on. You say, you know what? I know Jim who's in your area. Here's his number. Call him. He does good work. I've heard excellent things about him. Don't have to worry about it. But if it's a good paying job that you say, you know what, I would like to do that job, then you can still come back and do it. And instead of charging a fuel charge at that point, instead of $249, you can say, you know what, I can come do that. I'll quote you $279. That way you've built in that $30 for a fuel charge. They know up front it's part of that negotiation, right? Like, I've already established it's outside the service area, so I realize maybe you can't do this, but if you do, I'm going to pay a little bit more. Now, the other thing that you can do is establish maybe one day a month or one day every couple of weeks where you're going to go to that remote, far away location. And then you can say, look, normally I don't go out there, but I'm actually going to be out there on the 20th this month. Would that work for you? If so, I'd be happy to come do the job then. That way you're not driving out there every other day for a job, but you can kind of group them where you're doing maybe 3-4 jobs while you're out there. And that right there helps you with fuel charges. The other thing, use your tools to your advantage. Now, in ServiceMonster, we do a thing with what we call the color wheel for location-based scheduling. Actually, let me get over to scheduling here. And I'll show you a couple of examples of how this works. Now, the one on Friday, November 18th, I've got a couple of jobs booked here, and I've got some more jobs booked on Wednesday. Now, the color codes, how these work here, if you see this color wheel, the very center of this color wheel is your business location, or where you dispatch from. Jobs to the north are some shade of blue, east is green, west is red. So if you look at Wednesday, we've got 3 kind of blue shaded jobs, so 3 jobs off to the north. And the farther away they are, the darker the shade of color. So this one, and you can set your driving range in there, right? You can change your driving radius of your service area. Now in this one, I think we've got a 60-mile service area set up. So this light job right here, light blue, it's probably within 5 miles up to the north. This kind of medium shade, you're talking 15 to 20 miles. And this really dark blue is probably way up at the end or outer edge of my service area. So about 50 to 60 miles away. So in this scenario, what I've done is I basically said, look, I'm going to start out in the morning at the job closest to me. I'm going to work outward and then come back at the end of the day. And you could do it the opposite of that. This one on Friday, I've got a couple of really dark shaded red jobs that are out probably, let's say 50 to 60 miles off to the west. And what I'm doing here, if somebody from that area calls me, I'm going to say, hey, it's Monday. You know what? I'm actually going to be in your area on Friday. Would Friday, and then I just look for some time I'm available. Would Friday at 2 o'clock work for you? And that way, I'm hopefully guiding those farther away jobs to be all on the same day. So I go out to 60, 70 miles, whatever it is, but I'm doing that once a week, once every 2 weeks, even once a month. The other scenario I'll show you, which is kind of nice, if you set your normal service area, let's say you normally go out about 45 miles, and you have a guy who calls and he's 60 miles to the north. He says, hey, would you do a job for me? And you say, well, normally you're not in my service area, but you know what? Wednesday, I'm actually about 45 miles away from my location up north. I'm not that far from you. I could drive another 15 minutes and be at your location. And then even if it's outside the service area, you still schedule it in a way where you're not driving all over creation trying to do these jobs. So that's one tool we have. The other thing we have is, again, we've got email capability, right? If you book one job in that area that's far away, send a quick email blast to all your other customers in that region and say, look, I'm going to be out here on Thursday afternoon. Let me know if you want to book a job. Some people offer a discount at this point and say, look, if you'll book a job, it's convenient for me. I'll give you 15% off the job. And that sometimes, because it's targeted marketing, right? It's not just bland spam marketing like you get from Bed Bath & Beyond. It's, hey, I know that you live here. This is why I'm contacting you. I'm going to be in your area Thursday. Do you want to book a job? So that helps out. And we just call that, if you want to set that up, call us. We do what's called an email blast by city or by region. It takes 5 minutes. We can show you how to do that. The other thing I'll have some guys do, if you start getting a lot of jobs in that area, we've got some reports I'll show you. Actually, one report in particular, there's an invoice totals by region. What's nice about that, let's say you want to pull a year-to-date report of all the jobs you did by city, by county. If you're in like a tri-state area, you could pull by state to see if you want to go over to the other state, by zip code. And you can actually look and say, is it worth it to maybe hire a part-time tech who lives in that remote location to actually run this route where that's all his service area and just build it out from there instead of driving back and forth. And again, this is just for fees, right? It's not to say don't upsell. Upselling is important. And with upselling, the difference is that the customer gets something tangible for what they pay. With a fuel charge, with a credit card charge, they don't get a tangible result, and they're paying something different from your other customer who does the exact same job. And so this way they get the same value as the other customer. And I think whatever you do, you never want to make a customer feel like they're being penalized to give you business. And that's one big key in getting repeats. Now with bribes, bribes are interesting. I think the bribe I see most often is to get online reviews from customers. Some people offer a discount directly to the customer. Some people offer bonuses to their techs for getting reviews from the customer. And here's why I don't like that. A lot of the old school guys, the guys who've been doing this for 20, 30 years, what they've done to differentiate themselves, and it's not just a sales tactic, it's part of making the job more enjoyable, is they actually spend a little time with the customer. They talk to their customers. They get to know them. I talk to guys, I mean, you mention a customer, they know the customer's dog, they know about their kids, how school's going with the kids, what the careers are doing. They'll talk about football, baseball, classic cars, music, whatever. They get to know the customer. They establish a really good rapport. And that way you're not just a business, you're a person. And you're somewhat of a friend to them at that point. And like I said, it's not just a sales tactic. I mean, when I talk to people on the phone, I like getting to know what's going on out there. We talk about the weather. We talk about baseball, even though my Red Sox got killed. But it's a fun part of it, right? It keeps it from being such a grind. And it's probably that way for your customer too. It keeps it from being transactional, and it sort of establishes more of a rapport, like I have with the guy at the Shell station. Um, so I guess what I don't want to do is I don't want to see people take that personal rapport that they build and compromise it by suddenly turning it transactional. Like, hey, I'll give you 10% if you give me a review. It just doesn't fit. Um, and I may refer you to the first video in the series where we talk about how to get reviews using an email template. Ideally, you want to do two things after a job: send them a thank you card and send them a thank you email. The thank you card, that's the handshake. That's what says, thank you for having me in your home. Thank you for trusting me to do business. The thank you email, that's the transactional thing. It's email, it's allowed to be called in transactional. You send it out there, you have links and say, hey, if you love the service, click here, leave me a review. That way you don't have your tech in the field compromising that rapport that they just built to ask for something back. The other part of it, I guess, too, is there's a thing when the job is first done. Customers looking at the carpet, it's fresh, it's clean. Carpet's still a little bit damp, probably, depending on how you clean it, but they want to enjoy it, right? They don't want to think about, hey, I can get 10% off my job that I'm going to do a year from now. Next year doesn't even exist yet, right? They want to live in the now. They want to enjoy their carpet. And so I think trying to get customers to do something that's going to benefit them next year or 2 years from now is not going to work. And it doesn't work. I know guys who they put a lot of emphasis on their techs in the field getting bonuses if they can get reviews, and they still get very few reviews. Unless they're mad at you. Now, if the customer's mad at you, of course they will go to the end of the earth to leave you a bad review. And I think ideally, if you make it easy for a customer to leave you a review, they'll do it, incentive or not. If you make it hard, no matter what you throw at the table, if you give them $100 off, they probably still won't do it. And that's why I like to leverage that email, because you have a link where they can click, they're right at the review page, and it's easy to leave a comment or a review that way. The other thing that I'll see bribes for are referral programs. Generally speaking, I don't think offering a bonus actually makes people more likely to give you a referral. And I know a lot of people disagree with that. So I say generally speaking, there are exceptions. My point here is specifically to offering a referral bonus at the time of the job. And again, carpet's still damp. These customers are not going to go to their 12 neighbors and try to pitch carpet cleaning to them for you in order to get a discount a year or 2 years from now. We're consumers, right? There's immediacy is a real thing. We live in the now. We buy things now. We don't buy things a year or 2 years from now. So asking for a referral at the time of the job is probably not the most effective way to do it. Now, that being said, if neighbors come to visit, I'm going to talk about my clean carpet because I just paid $250 for it. Of course, I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to show them. And if you did what I suggested earlier and sent them a thank you card and a thank you email, we start talking about the carpet. My neighbor says, hey, who did this carpet for you? I love the job. Hey, here's a card. I've got a couple of business cards from this guy. Or here's my greeting card that I got from them thanking them. So you can send that in that way. The other thing that you can do is if they do give you a referral, right? They hand that business card, or they do give a referral to their neighbor. Give them the reward after the fact. By doing that, you're saying thank you. You're not soliciting them for the referrals, but you're still rewarding them. You're saying thank you. If you give them $20, $25 off their next job, whatever it happens to be, then that still builds loyalty with your customer because they were recognized for doing something you didn't even ask them to do. The other thing that works pretty effectively is instead of trying to get referrals a year or 2 years from when they want to do the job. Again, we're consumers, right? We live in the now. We want to buy things now. So if you send out target marketing, send them a card a month before you expect they're going to do that job. Send them a card at 9, 10 months, something like that. And that's when you offer a referral program. Hey, I'll give you $25 per referral. For every customer who does a job with me, $25 off or 1% off, something like that. And make it stackable, right? If you have cheerleaders who are really going out there and building business for you, I mean, hey, if they give you 8 referrals that all do jobs, give them a free job out of it. But if you do something like that, you time it right, then hey, I'm going to get my carpet cleaned next month. And I've got a card from this guy saying he's going to give me a referral. You know what? I'm going to talk to my neighbor. I'm going to tell him about this. Let's see. Oh, and the other thing that I'll show you here real quick, if you're not using this, and this is just for ServiceMonster customers, but I'll kind of give you an idea of what you can do in here. Let's look up Dustin Pedroia again. If you're not doing this, you definitely should. Every customer who calls in, ask them where they heard about you. And if you do that, you can track this here. So most often you're going to get something like, oh, I saw you on, Facebook or Angie's List, or I did a Google search and found you. But if they say, hey, one of your customers, actually my neighbor referred me over, you can click on referring account. And I've seen a lot of you that'll just call it account referral, but you won't really note who did that referral. But this is really important. You can get a lot out of this. So referring account, there's this magnifying glass where you can look up your customer. And let's say we got referred by Bosco Baggins. So we tag him as the referring source. And he's going to show up here as your lead source for this account. What's nice about that is we have reporting that shows all the marketing. It shows who referred people. It'll show you how many customers they referred, how many of them actually converted into jobs, what you spent for what they spent for the average job amount, all kinds of things that'll actually show you how your referrals are doing. And that's important, especially, I mean, if you really want to harvest referrals, we even have it set up where you can send out a card to somebody when they provide a referral that turns into a job. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do. All you have to do is track the lead source. Ask them where they heard about you. And something like that, you're not bribing a customer ahead of time, you're rewarding them after the fact. Now, let's see. Oh yeah, one last thing I wanted to show you, and this is on how to apply discounts to your order. And a lot of people know how to do this, and a lot of people do apply discounts, but I'm going to show you something that'll hopefully help. And this is in line with getting repeat business. So the first thing we're going to do, let's get rid of this pesky credit card surcharge that we decided we're not going to use. All right, so we did this job with Dustin. It was $249.30, and let's say we were running a spring cleaning special where we gave a percentage off or a dollar value off. Now, a lot of people, what you'll do is you'll come in here on the total and you'll actually change the quantity. You'll change the total of the order itself. So instead of $249, all they see is, well, I paid $220 for this. I'm going to show you a better way to do that. Add a line item called discount. And in this case, we have a discount for spring cleaning special, $25 off. Now, it still drops the order down to $224, whatever it is. But what this does more importantly is in the future, if you're not offering the spring cleaning discount next time, instead of the customer thinking, well, this was $224 last time, why is it $249 now? Did you raise prices on me or what's going on? You establish in this line because you show the full price of that product or service. You build that value ahead of time. You say, look, this is something that's worth $249. I'm giving you a $25 discount because it's spring, but normally this is $249. And that way, the next time when they come back for a job, they're not surprised if they get quoted $249. And that's a big one, right? It's just setting expectations ahead of time. It's making sure customers feel like there's no surprises, right? There's nothing thrown in. There's consistency. And unlike that guy who charged $895 a room and ended up with a $400 bill, you're upfront with your cost. You're upfront where everybody's paying the same amount. So if they talk to their neighbor, they talk to their friend across town, they're not like, well, I only paid $200 for that. Right? It's all consistent and it feels fair. And that rebuilds that perception of the industry that got undercut by some of the shady people out there. So that's all I had about fees, discounts, and bribes. Does anybody have any questions? Or any questions that Olivia hasn't handled yet? All right, Jane's good here. I see Michael in there. And Bob, I haven't talked to Bob in a while. Hopefully, I'm going to see Bob at ICE this year. I don't know if you're going to ICE. Okay, excellent. Yeah, I'll stop by and talk to you for sure at ICE. And if you guys don't know, I mean, we don't get, ICE is not a sponsor of us, but ICE is another trade show that happens, I believe, toward the end of January. We like to go down there. It's a show that has grown every year since its inception, what, 4 or 5 years ago. Pretty sizable show. They've got a lot of demonstrations, a lot of equipment down there. It's a great place to network with people. So if you want to check them out, I think I've got a link up here. Just search for ICE Expo Las Vegas, and you should find some details there. And yeah, we'll post a recording of this sometime tomorrow. We'll probably have it recorded, and we'll throw it up in the next couple of days on our website for you. Yeah, iceexpo.org. Bob just posted a link there. So iceexpo.org if you want to go. And if you're an existing ServiceMonster customer, feel free to stop by and talk to us. We can show you some things. We can show you some of the new ServiceMonster 6. We can demonstrate Mobile 3 that's coming out. Or we can just talk and go have a beer, whatever you guys want. All right, everything else looks good there. All right, thank you guys very much. And yes, there will definitely be more, depending on my schedule here. I'd like to do one of these about once a month if we can, and just take topics that talk some shop, right? Things that I've heard come up that people mentioned that if we hear enough of it, we can say, hey, there's one guy down here in Minnesota who did this a better way. Let's throw that out there. It's kind of the nice part about talking to all the carpet cleaning guys, all the window cleaning and pressure washing guys, is we'll start seeing things that people have struggles with, and we'll just throw an idea out there. It doesn't even need to be something that you have to use ServiceMonster for, right? It's just part of that networking thing. So, hey, thank you guys for coming out. We'll post this up the website as soon as it's ready, and you guys have a great night.